Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. So there's been a little bit of noise online about a new product that's come out, linked specifically to the GP. I've seen lots of rumours about the quality of it, etc. So I thought let's get hold of one and do a bit of a comparison for you. So what is that product? It's actually the Nissens intercooler. So it's the GP intercooler. So for anyone that's been around minis for a while, they'll know the GP actually has a slightly larger. It's based on the R53 Cooper S intercooler, but it's got 2 or 3 extra rows of fins on it, and the recovery time on the GP is really good. So take back sort of 15 years ago, people were buying these for around £500, £600 for an intercooler, brand new from Mini. Mini obviously got wind of that, as well as part of the fact that parts are getting rarer for the GPs, and the price went through the roof. I don't even know how much they are new. They're sort of £1,500 plus up from what I'm seeing across different websites. So they're really expensive. So originally it was like a cheap alternative to a GRS, etc. However, now they're way more expensive than most of the aftermarket ones. So people forget about actually how good the GP intercooler is at recovery. And with those price hikes, it just became rarer to actually see people opting for a GP intercooler unless they'd already had one when the prices were lower. Mini, there's no sight of that price coming down. So that's where Nissens come in. So Nissens have actually done a GP intercooler. So what I wanted to do is, because I've got the car here, is actually whip the intercooler off the GP and put it side by side, because I think some of the early ones that came out from Nissens on this a few months ago didn't look the prettiest, and it looks like they've actually improved their manufacturing process now based on the one that I've purchased myself. So this isn't a sponsored video. I haven't sort of been given this by Nissens. I've purchased this with my own money to actually do this video, and potentially, based on the comparison, use it for the new R53, well, R50 with an R53 engine build that I'm doing at the moment. Okay, so let's pop that bonnet, get the intercooler off, and we'll do a desktop comparison. Okay, let's start off with the GP intercooler over on this side. So we can see here, we've got this extra bit that's welded on. So this is a Cooper S intercooler, and you can see there's just that extra few rows that give it that extra ability to cool while still keeping the reaction time. Now these were made by Berh for Mini, and as explained, they've got a really good reputation in the aftermarket scene. So for years, people were actually, for track cars, etc., suggesting that you run these for the recovery time, especially. I know a lot of people doing drag racing, etc. There was a lot of positivity around those. So we've seen that in comparison to the Cooper S. Let's open up the Nissens one. Pull that out the box. Let's cut this cardboard off so we can see what we've got. An initial, just whipping it out the box, it looks to be really good quality. Let's get our comparisons right. So this is the back edge of it. If we flip this over so we can see a reflection, it's very, very similar finish. So this one is painted, this one is not. So the Nissens one, for some reason, they paint them, and it's not a perfect OEM finish. The only bit you actually see are these fins in the centre. Now if we look at the quality of these fins versus these things and the bars, everything at the moment externally looks exactly the same. There doesn't look to be any difference between this and this one, other than obviously because the Nissens one has been made to be this size, they haven't tacked on an extra bit. You don't have this weld line here. It's actually, obviously, it was always designed to be a GP intercooler replacement. We flip them over again just to show no difference whatsoever. So I think if this one was as dirty as this one, from the outside you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But obviously we all know with performance parts, it's not just about the outside. So if we look at the end tanks, in here, what's the first thing that stands out to me is this one, the original GP intercooler. This metal seems to be a little bit thicker than what's over on this side, but that's only on the edge. There may not be much difference once it gets a little bit deeper, but there just does seem to be a little bit of a thinning here versus that one. Then when it comes to inside, and hopefully that's coming up on, let's move it over to this side so you can see a bit more. Inside, what's the difference? So the actual fins themselves are very similar. It looks like there's a staggered approach. Now, Rich Everett had a look at these for me to do a comparison, and he seems to think actually the Nissens construction inside is really good. This piece of metal that you see, some of the earlier ones had lots of little pieces of metal going across here, and it looks like in the manufacturing process, so if we show the GP one a little bit closer, these bits in the middle that obviously push the air through the fins and split the air flow, they're actually two pieces of metal compressed together. So Mini or Berh had a way of actually keeping those together during manufacturing to stop them splitting while it's all welded together. What it looks like is Nissens has used this metal bar inside to actually, again, keep these from splitting during the manufacturing process. So you could probably, if you really wanted to, work that out and remove it. But speaking to Rich Everett, he doesn't think that that would cause any issues in terms really of the airflow going into there. So actually, looking through on the inside, and it doesn't always come up on camera, it's like, I've seen early versions of this intercooler and it had sort of compressed fins, etc. I don't know how much is the case. So you can obviously see we've got some damage to the GP one. This one, looking like new, doesn't have any bent fins. You can see everything looks really tidy on both sides and inside there. Now sometimes on the camera it picks up and looks like some of these fins are mashed inside, but they're not. I can tell you from my eye looking in, and again on the smaller end you can see you've still got that metal plate, but again that shouldn't really do much in terms of interference with that airflow. So just from a comparison point of view, putting them side to side, they are so similar that if I take any sort of engineering idea out of it, I would say they're the same thing, and therefore you'd get the same results. Now obviously this desktop comparison, I'm not putting the car on a dyno or anything or doing any sort of testing, but just from a visual comparison, there's no reason why this new Nissens intercooler shouldn't cool any worse or recover any worse than actually the original OEM intercooler. So as I say, Rich Everett was really positive when I showed him this one in comparison to the GP intercooler, to the point that I think I'm going to give this one actually a go on the new R53 that I'm building. So I'm going to keep hold of this one, and for the price that these are going at, they're much cheaper than a used GP intercooler, let alone a brand new GP intercooler. So I think Orranje Performance now stock these as well. Now obviously to run this you're going to want a nice cover to go over the top, which obviously the GP has. Nissens don't offer that, and Mini, I don't know whether they're expensive or a limited run. So I understand Orranje are actually going to be doing an intercooler cover, and also the extended brackets, because they've got this extra bit of length, you need extended metal brackets to actually bolt the rear end of this in. So hopefully Orranje should come up with an aftermarket nice cover for these, an air diverter, as well as some additional brackets. So that's coming soon. I can't promise. That's just a conversation I had with them, and they said they were going to look into doing that at some point. So it's not like it's going to be out next week, but it should be coming soon for those, hopefully. Okay, so in terms of the fitment on the car, like I've put this against it. All the bolts holes line up. It bolts in. Obviously the end tanks, the snoot boots go over those perfectly because they're exactly the same. You've just seen on the desktop review, I've sort of compared the size of that. So for me, this is potentially a viable option to all the aftermarket ones. Am I saying this is as good as an AirTech or a GRS, etc.? Well, that's entirely up for you to decide. But just, I know there was some bad rep in terms of these Nissan intercoolers, but from what I can see, and putting it next to a GP intercooler, because that's the big thing that a lot of people haven't done, is actually compared it side by side to a GP intercooler to see actually how good these are. And that little oil mark on the back is literally where I was handling it the other day with dirty fingers, so it actually comes looking all fresh and painted from new. So I hope that video helps some of you make up your own mind in terms of that intercooler. For me, it seems like a good, cheap alternative, and I want to give it a go. So I'll let you guys know, obviously, once the engine's built and we're running the new R53, I'll let you know my thoughts on it. But initial impressions are actually really good. I've seen some of the photos on Facebook where there's some wibbly wobbly sort of metal bits inside those end tanks, which is, again, just support for during the manufacturing process. And they could potentially be pulled out and removed. But for me, the airflow, the big thumbs up from Rich Everett gives me some positivity, especially at the price, to give that a go and see what we can do. I think the prices have gone up from when they initially came out, but they're still much cheaper than a used GP intercooler or a brand new one. So if you found today's video useful, please hit that thumbs up button to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get alerts every time we upload new content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.